Welcome back to OT Rex. I hope you guys are doing well. Today's video is going to be about Prader-Willi syndrome, also known as PWS. I decided to share my recent research with you on PWS because I suspected that one of my clients may have this. Obviously, as OTs, we don't diagnose, and we all know that, but I like to keep up to date with research, and I wanted to see if this is something that I would have to possibly direct my family to do some research on. So, Prader-Willi syndrome is a genetic condition. It impacts females and males equally, and people who have this condition often present with weak muscle tone, or also known as hypotonia, developmental delay, which impacts their speech and their gross motor development, poor growth, as well as an insatiable appetite. That's kind of the biggest thing I always remember about children with Prader-Willi is that they want to eat so much and they're not able to moderate their hunger or their feeling of fullness. So that is a big one, and we will come back to discussing this a little bit more in depth. But first, let's talk about the cause of Prader-Willi. The cause is from a loss of gene function in chromosome 15. This can happen in three different ways. The two main ones is a deletion or a mutation in our chromosome 15, and it is a syndrome that is not inherited. So you're not going to get this from your mom and dad because they had this gene dysfunction. It is something that you are born with. Prader-Willi syndrome is known to cause a hypothalamus dysfunction, and we're going to go a little bit back into anatomy, and you're going to remember that the hypothalamus does everything with our bodily functions, such as knowing when we are full, knowing when we need to use the bathroom. It helps us all with that internal moderation of our body. So if this is impacted, then you can kind of already know all the things that someone with Prader-Willi is going to struggle with as they get older. But the research right now is unclear as to how this genetic abnormality leads to hypothalamus dysfunction. So let's go back to this insatiable appetite and what it would lead to and how that's going to impact someone with PWS and also our role as OTs in helping them with intervention. So this is obviously going to lead to overeating, and the overeating can start as early as age 2 to 4, and that's when families are really starting to work with their kids to help them minimize their chances of getting obesity or overeating. What happens is they start to eat so much and it's uncontrollable, and then this obesity will lead to type 2 diabetes. And we really want to help children avoid that if possible, and intervention starting earlier for people with PWS is very important for that reason. In order to be diagnosed with PWS, you do need to go through genetic testing. And these are some other things that come with PWS. There's a lot of different conditions and symptoms that may arise, and everyone's going to look different depending on, I would say, the severity of the condition. But Prader-Willi presents with mild to moderate intellectual impairment, behavioral problems such as outbursts and stubbornness, also frustration. Motor milestones are delayed, like I said earlier, which also impacts speech, so there might be speech apraxia as well. There are distinctive facial features for people with Prader-Willi, and this includes a narrow forehead, a short stature, and a triangular mouth. They also have typically lower muscle tone, which I talked about earlier, but as they get older, that muscle tone and strength can definitely improve, especially if they're getting physical or occupational therapy. They also present with underdeveloped genitals, and this particularly impacts females as they are older because they are often infertile. There is no cure for Prader-Willi syndrome. A lot of what we can do is to start with lifestyle modification, adapt meal plans and the food relationship, as well as the nutrition and everything to help the child grow healthier, as well as avoid obesity. Physical therapy occupational therapy, speech therapy, as well as behavioral therapy can all come into play and be very helpful for the child. And also, there are human growth hormones that can be utilized down the line in order to help with the overall gross motor development. And this is going to help with the height and the lean body mass and mobility. So it's going to help the child develop into adulthood with more capacity, really. It also helps reduce behavioral difficulties as well as improve speech, according to research, which is really interesting to me. Okay, so now we're at what OTs can do. What is our role in helping people with Prader-Willi? If you are working with them as infants, you will always be supporting their fine and gross motor skills, work on muscle strengthening to help with that low tone and overall gross motor development. And of course, that's always going to tie in with our self care goals. In addition to that, we can also work on emotional regulation to help with their behavioral difficulties and their anxiety and frustration, as these are very common symptoms to people who have Prader-Willi. And I also think that it's very important for us to teach and educate our parents about healthy eating, meal planning, and strategies to help with a well balanced diet and nutrition. Obviously, they are probably going to be seeing a nutritionist as well, but since we work on feeding, I think it is part of our domain to assist in this as well. It is recommended to do daily food intake supervision. So, this is also a lot of parent coaching where you discuss how to help them with the overeating habits. Because, again, this starts at ages 2 to 4. So, you might have to lock the cabinets, you might have to lock the fridge, put food in places that are not accessible, and help the child get into a healthy routine of eating better and eating when they are truly hungry versus just overeating. In addition to this, I also included visual motor activities and sleep routine support just because children with Prader-Willi also have difficulty with sleep, so they might have sleep disorders. And of course, they can go to a specialist and get more information on how to improve their quality of sleep. But you can always help with establishing better routines, such as winding them down in advance, always having a consistent sleep routine, and also adapting nap routines as necessary to help the child fall asleep better and faster. So that's something we can help with. And with Prader-Willi, also have difficulty focusing with their eyes together, so they might have to see a ophthalmologist. But you can always work on these skills with various fine motor activities, such as puzzles, activities with tracking and scanning, all of that to help strengthen our visual motor system. We're working with newborns with Prader-Willi. Oftentimes, newborns will have difficulty sucking and latching, so you can assist with those feeding difficulties with special equipment such as special tubes and nipples to help the child eat better. Before, people with Prader-Willi don't always develop all of their genitals completely, so we do want to think about the psychological and emotional side of what a person may be experiencing when they have to go through sex hormone treatment, corrective surgeries. All of that is a lot to handle as well as navigate, so that might be something that you would work on with a young adult or an adult with Prader-Willi, and working through that experience and how that impacts their day-to-day lives. So that's a really big one. And also, you want to think about what their lives are going to look like in adulthood, because oftentimes there are group homes available, since there is going to be that compulsive overeating and obesity. All the health problems and risks that come with it really require a lot of supervision for these adults, and a group home would really offer that structure and consistency. Alrighty, so I hope you guys found this information helpful. I learned so much about Prader-Willi while doing this research, so that was really cool for me to learn about with you as well. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.